you ready for a little Southern humor mixed with relevant topics we can all relate to? We're about to pull back the curtains and mix it up. Scoot your chair up. It's time to talk about all the things and ask all the questions. Welcome to Get It Together, y'all.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited for today's show. I know you have heard hit songs because they're everywhere, and today we get to talk to some songwriters and some musicians, singers around Nashville. We tape in Nashville, and I know we're seen all over the place, and but we love it when we can get some old road dogs and we can get some stories about the nitty gritty of music, the music business. And today we get to talk to some real amazing people. So I'm excited about it. I want to talk about some lyrics. Like my theory, every time I hear a lyric like "You say it best when you say nothing at all," it has to be written by a man. But I, like make notes like, oh, when we have a songwriter on, I'm gonna say that, because you say it best when you say nothing at all is not what a woman would say. But anyway, we get to talk to a couple guys here today. They brought their guitars. I don't know what's gonna happen today. We don't know. Do we? My name is Cindy Larson, and I am your host for Get It Together, y'all. And I have a wonderful co-host, April. Hi.
Hi, I'm April Potter, and I'm your co-host. And I am so excited because one of my best friends is on here today. I mean, I keep having so many best friends on here. How does this happen?
You know a lot of people. Know a lot of people.
But we had a list, and I'm like, songwriters we've got to have. And then he brought a friend.
Yeah.
So it's going to be so exciting.
So who do we have today?
We have Sam Mullins in the house.
Yes.
Hey,
and we have his friend, Bobby Ebert. Boyd.
Yep.
Bobby E. Boyd?
Yes.
And the E is because there was another Bobby Boyd?
There was another Bobby Boyd that was a songwriter in Nashville for many, many years.
Believe that.
We crossed paths.
Wow.
When I was at BMG Publishing, they even bought his catalog. So all of a sudden, his catalog and mine were in the same place.
Yeah, his song is on your Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
I would
And then-
accept his checks.
Well, I wish. But when we never could meet, and I had friends that were friends with him for years. And finally, one day I had an office on 16th Avenue, and I got a package from BMI, and it had an award I got for a song called In Pictures from Alabama for a Millionaire Award. And then the same envelope was his award for Two of a Kind.
Wow.
And so I called him and said, look, we've not met. We've been threatening to, et cetera, et cetera. Come down here and get this award, and let's meet. And, of course, when he got there, we wrote a song.
Of course you did, by
So-
Bobby and Bobby.
Well, it was Bobby E. Boyd and Bobby K. Boyd.
Oh, my God.
And then the publishers thought we were pulling a joke on him. But the funny thing is, sad thing, he died a few years ago. Well, the funny thing is they put my picture on the Chattanooga newspaper,
No.
where he was from. And so,
That's not right.
yeah.
That is not
But-
right.
We have something on this
No.
show that we call Fun Facts. That's a pretty fun fact.
Yep.
So,
I don't think that we could top that on just
No.
stuff that we, pull off the internet, or we have audience members that submit fun facts for us to talk about. But
Sure.
that's a pretty good one. And so that's kind of like lightning strike twice, because to have a hit song in this town is great. To have two guys with the same name, both be
That's
hit
wild.
writers on 16th Avenue. Speaking of that, that's one of my favorite songs. God bless the boys who make the noise
Oh,
on
yeah.
16th Avenue.
Yeah, that's a
Oh, don't
wonderful
get me
song.
started.
Yeah.
That one in Nashville Cats. I
Oh,
love
my
There's
that.
more truth in
gosh.
that song than many
Yes.
songs. It's a great song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That one is I've got to pull the car over. Like sometimes I will just like scroll YouTube and see who's covered that and just like have a moment. But I don't live too far from 16th Avenue, so it's a kind of special tune
Yeah.
for me. Thank you guys for being here today.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
y'all.
Oh my gosh, this is
Enjoying it.
really, really fun.
Yeah,
So
excited.
I can't wait to get into all the things. You brought guitars. Nobody's brought a guitar yet.
Nope.
So I don't
Wasn't
know.
sure. Well,
what
I
we're
wasn't sure
doing.
what we needed
Yeah,
to
right.
do.
That's Nashville.
Well,
what
they
a,
look
What
great.
a contracept. Actually play some music.
Right.
What?
Well, a common thing that we do around here is a writer's round. So you would
cool.
sit and take, in this town, right? And
Oh,
so
yeah.
everybody takes turns and sings with each other, and you play with each other, and
Those
each
are fun.
sings songs. But we're here to talk the talk. Like, I mean, we can.
We're going to talk some smack, Bobby.
So
We
man,
can talk about songwriting all
We
day long.
can. Now, it's one of our favorite topics to talk about.
Yeah.
Let me
amazing.
tell
It
you
is.
something. I don't know about you, but he is a walking encyclopedia of songs. I have
That's awesome.
never
Yeah.
in my life seen something like it. He can
Yeah.
just, and he
I know.
knows all the lyrics. I'm
Y'all
like,
need to do a show
how?
called Stump the Sam. Because you can't
My
do it.
goodness.
Hey, Sam, play that 80s hair metal band. Okay, here you go. And he'll just play
And
it.
he just starts
But
going.
here's the
on.
problem. I could sing you songs from when I was 6 years old, like from the Monkees and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know where my keys are, man. I don't know where my wallet is.
You're a useless husband.
You don't have any
Is that what you're
memory
trying to say
left
to me?
for that stuff.
Yes, I don't.
No,
You got
it's
that
all full
song
of
thing up there.
songs.
Yes,
I
I
mean,
know.
literally.
I don't know how Christy puts up with me.
I don't either. His wife is a really sweetheart. I was
Oh.
hoping she would come today.
Christy the supermodel.
She's
Oh
a
my
supermodel.
gosh. She is.
Beautiful.
She's all that.
I've always called her that ever since I met her.
Always, always.
And
So
she
sweet,
is
Bobby. She loves
beautiful.
She's on my speed dial for some things that I do. April and I, we have certain people. We're like, okay, now we got to call. She's our
On our
go-to
list.
girl on a whole bunch of different reasons. But we don't talk about you. Just so you know, you're gonna have to tell me whatever you want me to know about you because we're busy. When
Yeah.
we get together, we
busy.
have things. We have things that we're doing.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
anyway,
We got people.
we got people. So how do you guys know each other?
We met out in the parking lot.
Hey,
that's
we
a-
have
that's
some
a great
people that
story.
does not know.
Probably from church.
Yeah, that's okay. So,
From Belmont East /
Okay.
what did they call it after that? I was never at Belmont East when it was out in Hermitage.
Harvest
Harvest.
International Church. Yeah.
Sam was
You
a
know,
worship leader out there and some other guys. But we
okay.
might have crossed paths before that, but we didn't really know each other until
Of course, I knew who Bobby was because back, I guess, in the, I think my first songwriting deal was like 80, 89 over there at Little Big Town with Woody Bomar, and I knew who Bobby was because in those days, in the late 80s and in the 90s, if you had a hit song, that's what your middle name was.
Oh.
So he was Bobby Up in Pictures Boyd. You know,
Oh, yeah.
it was the number 1 song for Alabama.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he
it's
had
in the-
stuff with Martini. Y'all let him tell
in
you.
the
but-
middle of the 90s. I was
Yeah.
a little later than that.
Yeah, a little bit
Yeah.
later than that.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
And so I knew who Bobby was.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did. And I knew what he looked like. And then,
Yeah.
My condolences.
no. Well, I always wanted to write with you, but it was kind of like, I was trying to make my publisher make that happen.
Yeah.
Can you get me with this guy?
Yeah.
But it was the neatest thing. I don't know if we need to get into it or not, but it's the greatest story I've ever known. How he came walking down the aisle at church one night, and
Wow.
bro,
Oh yeah.
And you said I do.
well, it wasn't.
Wasn't that kinda walk
I don't
down the
swing
aisle?
that way, just so you know. But
that was the night I said I don't anymore.
I
That
don't.
was. It was.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
can we talk about that?
Yeah,
go
ahead, go
this,
ahead.
This endears me to him because I've never
Yeah.
known anybody like this.
Yeah.
I was leading worship with a friend of mine named Brett Berry. It was a Saturday night. We started doing
It was
a few
Friday
Saturday-
night.
It was a Friday night. We started doing a few Friday night services.
It was
That was
a
kind of a big-
healing service.
That's right. It was a healing service, and I remember it was kind of a big deal because, I always gigged on Friday night. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing this for Jesus. This is okay. And the guy that I was doing it with, man, he was phenomenal. And we were playing songs that were really kind of hip and cool.
Yeah.
and my friend, his name's Brett Berry. He looked at me and goes, I think we need to do Open the Eyes of My Heart. I just feel like we need to do that.
Wow.
And I said, that Paul Baloney song? Are you serious, man? God, that song is ancient. Really? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Are you hearing from God, man? I'm not sure.
And where were you at the time?
We were
At your church?
at church,
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
church,
yeah.
Saturday,
Okay,
at Friday
got it.
night church.
Friday night healing
And
service.
Yeah.
and so we did it. I was like, okay, man. So we did the song, and a very surprised Bobby Boyd comes down and I could tell he was in shock,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew who it was. Like, oh man, that's Bobby Boyd. I'm such a huge fan of this guy's
Yeah.
songwriting.
Yeah.
I just knew who he was, and
Yeah.
and that night, can you tell it?
Yeah, well, I'd kind of asked God for a sign because I'd had a problem with alcohol and I really wanted to quit. And that week I had just decided I'm going to this healing service and I'm getting healed. And I get there and there's like 10 people there and I'm bummed, of course. You know, there's got to be 1,000 people,
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
you know, for something.
Right.
And
God to
they
move, you
then
know.
they played and they finished. And I was like, oh, man, this ain't going to be it. And then they said, nah, you know, we need to do one more song. And, of course, it was Open the Eyes of My Heart, Lord, which everybody played up until I asked God for that. They stopped playing it anywhere. And then they played it, and
haven't played
we
it in years.
we prayed that night, and I drove home and never. That was 1999. Never touched another drop of alcohol.
And what was the connection to that song specifically?
I don't know. I loved the song, and then,
Yeah.
like I said, everybody stopped playing it, and I
Yeah.
just said, Lord, if you'll just give me that as a sign whenever it's
Yeah.
time, and boom, there.
That's
it
what
was.
he said. He said,
Wow.
Lord, if they play Open the Eyes of My Heart,
Oh, my
I'll know
goodness.
you're
Yeah.
going to heal
Yeah.
me.
Wow.
'Cause
And
we had that week. I mean, I'll just tell you the honest truth. I was sitting in a parking lot drinking vodka, taking Xanax, and over on West End, just ready to lose it. And I was hearing the voice of our pastor's wife saying, "Satan always overplays his hand. Satan always overplays his hand." I
Right.
said, "He just did.
Wow.
I'm done." And so I drove home, and Friday night I went down there, and there's Sam and Brett. And I'm like, it was done. And
Wow.
it was instant miracle.
What a
Now I've
great
had
story.
process miracles since then. They're hard,
Yeah.
yeah,
but the instant one was easy.
Wow.
I'd never seen a miracle like that
Wow.
because alcohol is probably one of the hardest things to just stop.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not
On
even
your
healthy
own.
to just
You
stop.
can't.
No.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or do it on your own.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and
So it was a great experience.
Wow.
Thank you, Sam, for being there. And
I almost blew it, man.
I don't want to play that
well, thank
song.
God for Brett. We know
Yeah.
Brett would do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, you guys, y'all were there, and it was amazing. And that night was the night. It was truth.
That's awesome.
a thing like that bonds you as friends.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
that began our friendship.
Yeah.
And it's deep. It's
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than just music.
The reason I ask you where you were, because for those of you who haven't been around Nashville, it is not uncommon for a worship song to be played in a club.
Oh, sure.
I've done it.
You know,
Yeah.
and we live down the street from 3rd and Lindsley, and some of our friends, you know, Tim Akers when he was
Tim
here.
would start off with
He
Yeah.
would start out with
Happy
a
Day.
Happy Day
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
his sound check, and then after the break they would come in and do something, you know, and just like have church. So we would we're kind of spoiled around this town because a lot of people work in those music venues, but they have the ability to break out and do a worship song. Nobody's going to kick you
Yeah.
out.
Well, you
Not
know,
this
it's the
town.
center of the earth for country music and for Christian music
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
So it overlaps quite a bit. Like Tim Menzies, he's one that's
oh
just.
yeah, man.
And the
Love
minute he opens his mouth, it's just like, yes, Lord.
I know.
If he's singing country or Christian, doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
He's just
It's
anointed
like, what
to
a
do it.
great song, what a great voice. He's in the ranks of a Joe Diffie. Just,
I saw him at a funeral.
Yeah,
At
open
my
the mouth.
church. You know, he was just sitting there. You know, and it's just not the place to go. This is so sad, but dude, you're awesome.
I know.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Just fanguying you
Yeah.
right now. I'm just like, this is awesome. Well, we have a great show. If you haven't already gotten you a cup of coffee, go do that because you're going to want to be here for all of it. We do have a fun time with this podcast, and
Yeah.
so we do a couple things that we will just go ahead and do because we're doing our thing, right? We're going to do a little fun facts. So April and I, you know, we'll just get your opinion about
Sure.
some things, and if you think of something. So this is the premise for the fun facts. Of all the things that we try to learn in life, try to remember from school, and all the things like where are your keys. There are certain things that are lodged in your brain, and they're just useless information. And so we like, you know, what would that be? So I'm gonna go a couple different directions with some laws that are on the books. I'm not even kidding. So no, in Illinois, no fancy bike riding. It's section 28345.
You can't pop a wheelie on
You
your
cannot.
Schwinn.
No.
And
no
so, what
fancy riding.
constitutes as fancy?
Especially not with a banana seat on it.
I guess not.
And
I think that the what he was saying, no
Yeah.
wheelies and stuff.
I'm like, what is fancy? You know, like who decides what's fancy and not fancy?
What gets me is there's a reason they made that law. Somebody did
Right,
something
we
crazy.
just said that.
somebody did something crazy.
Well,
or
when I was a kid, they always put those long bars on the front to make it look like a chopper
yeah.
and a banana seat and all the other stuff.
There was always a playing card in my spokes.
Yeah, the
'cause it-
card, the paint card and the spokes. Yeah.
Right.
I guess that'd be considered fancy
That's
back then.
fancy.
I don't know.
That's fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't do it in Illinois. And in Arizona, this is still on the books. It's illegal for men and women over 18 to have more than one missing tooth. You can't smile in public if you've got more than one missing tooth in Arizona. That is
They're a long way from the south,
You
aren't
get
they?
a ticket.
You sure that's not East Tennessee?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I'm telling you what, I have a thing. The more teeth my Waffle House waitress is missing, the better she's
The
going to be.
better. You would not have
More
a
money
Waffle
I'm going to give her.
Yeah,
right.
you would not have a Waffle House if it was a one tooth only rule.
No.
But Arizona
Waffle
don't
House.
appreciate it. And this was instated long ago when they were just trying to encourage everybody to go to the dentist. I think that a dentist got on some kind of city council and made this, made the
I
say
think
like
you're right.
everybody has to go to the dentist. That's
Yeah.
my play, and it's still on there. In Idaho, it's illegal to sweep dirt from your house onto the street. Idaho, they don't appreciate that.
You're going
know
to get
something?
a ticket.
I guess
You
it
get a
gets in the
ticket.
potatoes.
Yeah, who
Possibly.
knows? I mean, you got any fun facts today?
I do.
Yeah.
What's the most common surname in the U.S.? Do we know?
For a male or female or
Just like a last name.
A last
like the
last
surname.
name? I got you. Okay.
Smith.
It is. How did you know
I
that?
was gonna say Wesson.
How in the world did you know my question?
Well, I think that I had heard that years ago, but I just
Yeah.
didn't know if it was still a thing.
Well, I mean,
I
I
was
do
gonna
know
say
a lot
Smith
of
or
Smiths.
Jones,
I
you
mean,
know.
I know a lot of Smiths. So.
yeah.
And then, so this was a famous sports company before, and you will know what it is now, but it first was called Blue Ribbon Sports. Do you know what it is now?
It's Pabst Blue Ribbon beer.
I know that's exactly what I thought too.
Yeah.
Nike.
Oh, okay.
I was like, what? Okay.
Sports and
Rebranded.
beer kind of go hand in hand for a lot of
All
folks.
right.
While you're watching an NBA game with a Pabst in your hand.
I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm
right.
just over here learning stuff. I didn't know.
So y'all
that.
should have
tell
warned
ya.
us. We could have looked up some fun facts.
Yeah, I know a
Yeah,
fun
I
fact
should've
that probably
known.
most
Sam
people
may already
don't
know
know.
one.
Okay.
So my whole family, we lived probably the longest we've ever lived anywhere. I grew up in Texas like Bobby did, but my family moved out to Colorado, and Coors has water rights out there. Okay, so I'm from Golden, Colorado, where every bottle of Coors comes from. The whole town smells like
Wow.
Hobbs and yeast, and it is illegal for you to dump your grass from your grass clippings into the creek behind your house because Coors owns the water rights. We had a
Oh,
Coors
my
security
God.
car. Red security, Coors security. Can you believe that? Come up to the house and talk to my dad and said, "Y'all are dumping your grass into our creek, into our water." And my
please
dad
stop.
said, "It's on our lands, man. Colorado.
No.
We have water
Sorry.
rights." So every chance I got, I just pee in that creek. You know, Coors is me, y'all.
Of
I
course.
Yes.
Of course.
The only fact I ever
Check
knew
the
was
DNA of your.
down in Texas, we'd go down to Mexico when we were younger. And if you could reach the bar, you could drink. That's the only one I
Oh
knew.
my
That's
goodness!
hilarious. So
I didn't go.
that made me think of something, and this is true too. In third world countries, you can go to kindergarten if you can reach over your head and grab the top of your ear. That you have to be 5 to 6 years old to be able to do that.
Oh wow!
So where you don't know how
Yeah.
old children really are, they don't know how old they really are. That's how they tell if they can go to school.
I'm getting an education here. You know?
Wow.
That's a real one. All right, we do another thing around here called Southern Mother. So we need to talk about your Southern mothers because we love to hear mother stories. So you're from where? Texas.
Texas, yeah.
What part of Texas? I'm a Texan.
I'm originally from Corpus Christi. Then we
Okay.
moved to McAllen for a few years, and then my dad was moved to Bandera because of a pipeline that he was building up there, coastal
Wow.
states, and so Bandera's home for me.
I'm a Texan, and my family traveled my whole life from the time I was 4 till I was in my 20s. And people would, and I've been to like 35 countries, and so people would ask me what my favorite country was, and I would say Texas.
Texas,
Mm.
of course.
Yeah, absolutely. You've
Nothing
got
like it.
everything. You've got mountains, you've got a coastline, you've got deserts, everything. It's the whole
Armadillos.
thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tumbleweeds the size of this studio.
Yeah.
They're real.
They are real.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Now when people ask me what race I am, I say I'm Texan American.
yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I've written that on a job application. Did not get the job.
I speak
Sorry,
two
go ahead.
languages. You can try this one: Southern and
Texan.
English and Southern. My mother is a real good Southern, and she. So this is a Southern mother thing, but she'll say, "These kids and those Tex-Mexican, I can't Tex-Mexican worth a flip." I'm like, "Mother, it's text messaging. It's not Tex-Mexican."
Tex-Mexing. I
What's
love
a
that.
mother story? Was your mama a good cook, or was she?
Yeah,
she
can't you
tell? You don't still live with
She
her.
was no, she was great. But we were a family with 5 kids, and so she had to be really smart about cooking. But we had great, Tex-Mex growing up, chalupas and tacos and
Oh yeah.
daily almost. And but my wife's actually more of a Southern lady than my mom was, because Texas is not Southern. Texas is Texas.
That's true.
But my
There's
wife's
Another-
northern Texas. It does not.
that's right.
Your wife Stacy can cook. I've
Yeah.
eaten.
Yeah.
When I
But
was going
she's
through my divorce.
from
y'all
Greenville,
adopted
South
me.
Carolina, and she's a former Miss Teenage, Miss America or something?
Really?
Yeah, she's gorgeous, and she's a true Southern belle.
Right there.
So-
Yeah.
Love it.
She's
Uh-huh.
wonderful. She is wonderful.
She worked for Reba for years, and Linda Davis, and she worked with a lot of artists.
What did she do for them?
Publicity.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, but then once we had our second son, she said, "I'm done. I'm staying home." She homeschooled all 4 of our kids all the way through 20-something years.
yeah.
And God bless her, because I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
The kids would be stupid if I'd have done it.
I
And I
was
tell them
homeschooled.
that.
I'm a
Love Stacy.
homeschool mama.
Good for y'all.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So your mom, anything that you say that she always said, and when you say, "Man, this is my mama,"
What time's dinner? I still say that. I don't know. I mean, we moved several times, and then we
Yeah.
went to Bandera. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
but if she homeschooled you guys, she was a hard
No,
working.
she didn't. My wife did.
Your wife did.
Yeah, I went to public school.
Got it.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm
Got it.
stupid. Because homeschool
Do you have
kids are
brother
smart.
and sisters?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. Yeah,
Are you older or middle?
I'm the oldest. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So-
So you're your boss. That's why you're a good songwriter.
Well, I guess.
Yeah.
I threw a cat at my brother one time and it hooked into his ear.
Through a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
great
you throw
story.
a cat.
Threw a cat at
Not
him.
a ball, just a cat.
What hooked in his ear?
The claw. One of the claws. Yeah.
Oh, that,
Wow.
So he has 1 pierced ear.
that
the
is
perfect-
hilarious.
Wow.
You can't make that up.
No.
No.
You couldn't try to throw a
Yeah.
cat and
Yeah.
get caught in a person's.
Sorry.
Yeah,
We'll have all the
appendages.
pet people now calling in and complaining.
What about
But
you?
I was young.
Yeah. Sam, what
Sam.
about your mother?
Oh
She a
man.
Southerner?
Oh yeah. Yeah. She
Yeah.
grew up in Bandera, Texas,
Yeah.
where Bobby was
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
And moved to South Maid. My grandfather built churches. He was a masonry.
Okay.
Is that what you call that? And he worked with brick. And met my dad there at South Maid. That's a real town, South Maid, Texas.
Wow.
But yeah, she grew up in Bandera, and if I can think about what my mom probably still the voice in my head. And there's a lot of things my dad said that's in my head, but my mom would always remind me who I was. You know, she's been gone 5 years, but she's still in me. So many times in my life, you know, I'm 61 years old and I still need my mom. You know,
Yeah.
but my mom she'd know if I didn't call that I wasn't doing well,
Yeah.
and she'd call and she'd say, you need to be honest with me. I know you're going through it right now. And she'd say, let me remind you who you are. And she'd say, you are a man of God. You are Sam Mullins. You are a good man. You are smart. She would just go down the list. And she would remind me who I was.
That's amazing.
You know? And yeah, she was great at that.
That's awesome. She
Yeah.
still lives rent free in your head.
She does.
Yeah.
She does. Sometimes I talk to her.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if you ever met Sam's mom and dad, you'd see in him and all his kids, they're both there all the
Yeah.
way through. I got to meet them quite a few times.
You
and
did. They loved you.
They're
Awesome.
just that's
So cool.
Sam.
Yeah.
You look at him and you see his mom and his dad.
We could probably write a song about it. Right
We can
here,
write a
right
song.
here, right-
I have written a song about it, and Diamond Rio
We
recorded it.
can write a song
That's
about writing a
awesome.
song.
So let's talk about some songs. What are some of your hits and some of your favorites that didn't ever make it? You know?
Man. Well, jeez. I mean, I'm sitting across from Bobby Boyd, okay?
Well, I know.
But, you know, I will tell you probably one of the sweetest things that I had was one of the first songs I wrote when I moved to town was the one I was just talking about. It was called They Don't Make Hearts Like They Used to. And it was just kind of my perspective of looking around, and I had a lot of friends that were splitting up, getting divorced, and I was young. You know, I was 20, 25 years old, you know, or 26, and it was already happening. And, you know, I just kind of sat down with my friend Stan LaGrange, and we got to talking about it probably in about half an hour, which doesn't happen very often. That song was written, and I got a real cool opportunity to. I'd gone to college at Lipscomb here in Nashville, and a friend of mine was Marty Rowe. We'd gone to college together, and he was singing for a band called the Tennessee River Boys. They sung out at Opryland. Marty was a great singer, man.
Yeah.
Boy, yes.
Man.
Amazing.
And I got a call from him. He said, "Hey, we need a bass player. You know, we're kind of stepping it up a little bit, and you know, Sam wants you to audition on bass. You know." So
Yeah.
I thought, okay. So I kind of brushed up my bass playing. I wasn't great at it, but I could do it okay.
You're
And,
a showman though, so you give it. Like,
well, you know, we were
You
old friends.
sell
You
it.
know, we
Yeah.
weren't like best friends, but we knew each other pretty well, and
Yeah.
through, you know, music and stuff like that. And man, I used to say if I could sing like Marty, I wouldn't talk. I'd just sing everything I had to
You'd
say.
be ridiculous.
I would. And I remember I auditioned, and then they called me back, and it was between three people, and they chose Dana. Obviously, Dana became the Tennessee River Boys became Diamond Rio, and but one of the coolest things happened. Marty said, "Hey Sam, play something you've written. I know you're a songwriter." So I played that song. I played "They Don't Make Hearts Like They Used to," and I didn't get in that band. But they sure recorded that song, put it on their
That's
first
awesome.
album. So who would have known that album would have gone platinum?
Wow.
Yeah.
It had never happened. A brand new record label, a brand new act. First single went #1, Meet in the
Wow.
Middle,
Incredible.
you know, on
Yeah.
that album. And
It's not always, you know, we like, you know, take homes, and you know the lesson right here is that you show up and you don't. You might have wanted to talk yourself out of, I'm not going to get this bass gig, and you didn't. You were right, but you got
they chose
an
the right person.
opportunity.
Yeah.
You
was
got an
better.
opportunity to do something that had a long term
Yeah.
story, and
And it
it's a
put you in front of
relationship.
them in a relationship so that your song did get cut then.
it did.
So,
Did they ever cut any more?
No,
yours?
no, there was a few that came close, but you know
Yeah.
that one was their producer. Well, I knew their producer well because I went to college with him too. But the record label guy was a guy named Tim Dubois, and he
Yeah.
he loved that song.
Yeah.
And cool mom story. They had the big party for songwriters when that album went platinum, and I got to invite my mom to that party, and so we got to hear Diamond Rio. She got to meet them all, and Tim Dubois came over and told my mom, "Miss Mullins, that was my favorite song on that record."
He does the best Tim Dubois.
That's
Let me tell you
awesome.
something.
Everybody loves Tim Dubois.
Sweet guy.
awesome.
Sweet guy.
He dated my sister for a hot minute.
Oh
Did he?
my goodness.
Yeah, that was another long story. My husband was gone all the time on the road. He was a bus driver, and he was out with, you know, I don't know who. One year he was gone 320 days, so
Wow.
I was definitely a bus widow. But she was with Tim in his little red convertible. They went to school together, I guess. Anyway, I come up the driveway and rounded the corner, and I think I'm home alone. You know, my husband is, I don't even know where, because we didn't have cell phones, right?
Right.
And here is this car I don't recognize, this guy I don't recognize, and I didn't see her, and I was just like putting it in reverse as fast as I could, and I'm like, I screamed at her, and I says, I don't know you, I'm sorry, but don't ever do that to me again.
It's a great
was like-
story.
I couldn't even like him because it was like,
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, it was just fear.
You know, I always believed that he was a great record label
Yeah.
person, but I always felt like he was a great music business person because he was a songwriter. He was a great songwriter.
Yeah.
You know, still is, I'm sure. But he
That's
always made
awesome.
me feel like, you know, he's kind of like, he had kind of a dad thing with me. But he's the kind of guy that, you know, he's president of a record
Yeah.
label, but he also could tell you where the best fishing spots are.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
he's a sweet guy. Really, very down to
What
earth.
comes to mind with? I mean, you've written so much.
Well, I need to
so-
bookend that.
Okay.
So you can put that fun facts thing back
Yeah.
in. That album, Diamond Rio did, and I don't think I knew Sam yet at that time. The lead-off single was written by Jimmy Foster and Chapin Hartford, and I think Don Frimmer. And they were like my aunt and uncle. They were
Okay.
from Bandera. Jimmy was, and they were my mentors. And my youngest brother Gerald sang the demo for Meet in the Middle,
Get out.
which was the
Wow.
first single on that record. And then that came along, which happens to be one of my favorite Sam songs, maybe my favorite. Back to You is the other one, but that every time that we play a gig, I make Sam play it. If he's not going to, I'm like, play it. You got to play it.
Yeah, Diamond Rio.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of cross stories. I also was good friends with Van Stevenson, who was in Black Hawk, who wrote with Tim Dubois. And I've written with Van before he died, unfortunately, many years ago. But
You and Van were in rehab together.
yeah. I woke up, saw a massive hair laying there in detox, and they told me it was Van Stevenson. And 3 days later, he's finally moved.
Oh, wow.
He just laid there for 3 days. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot. That's the beauty of music, bro. There's so many cross stories and sections, and
And it's relatively a small town.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
that's what people don't realize.
well, it used to
that you
be.
can be. You can be
Yeah.
burning some bridges and then,
Yeah,
you know.
they've ruined the town now. It's not Nashville anymore, but I'm not going to sit and gripe about it. It's just, you know, if you guys are around in the '90s, it was
Oh, yeah.
I'm
so
a-
wonderful.
Yeah, I'm a native,
Yeah,
Nashville
so you know.
native. So
90s
So you're
country
the
was
one.
good to us.
I've
Yeah.
been here
It was.
almost 30
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I had a song by Alabama called "In Pictures."
it's a great song.
Love Alabama.
was-
I'm from Alabama.
Well, there
Love
you
it.
go.
Yeah.
Well, I was in my office. I was a song plugger at BMG for the first 4 or 5 years in the '90s. I'd signed as a writer, and then I ran the tape room, which was a great education because I was hearing
yeah.
Beth Chapman and John Hyatt, Marcus Hummon, and Hugh Presswood songs day in and day out.
Yeah.
This massive catalog. And then I took a song over. Some of our writers wrote. My wife was working for Reba, and I took a cassette over and put it on her desk. And before I even got back, Reba called and put one of them on hold, and she cut it, and they almost singled it. They already had it printed on the songbook for the album, and then they changed the song at the last minute. But that got me the job as a song plugger.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I already had written all these songs, and they were sitting around. But in my office, I had pictures of my son from down in Texas who I never saw. My ex-wife would send me a picture about every 6 months, and when people would come in, I would say, "Yeah, I'm watching my kid grow up in pictures,"
Wow.
which I knew was a song title. I mean, and I told every writer in the building that. And finally, one day, my buddy Joe Doyle came in, and he said, "Man, I love that In Pictures." He said, I think I'm going to write that." And I said, "No, Joe, I think we're going to write
I
that."
think
Yes,
we-
that's my song. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was my idea. But Joe did the lion's share of the work on it. Did a great job, of course. But Linda Davis cut it first, and it was a third-person song. And then the boys from Alabama were driving to Fort Payne one day, listening to her album, and it was like the last song on there. And
Yeah.
they heard it and called the label and asked if they were going to put a single out on Linda, and they said no. So they decided to cut it.
Boom.
But in the meantime, we almost missed the cut because Pirates of the Mississippi were in the studio cutting it, and the guy at the publisher had to call and get them to drop the song,
It's good.
Oh.
or we would have missed that cut.
Wow.
And so
So many stories.
we would have
All
not
the
been able
things
to
that
feed
nobody
Jake.
knows, you know?
You would not have been able to.
That's
So-
so great.
But yeah, I mean, that's just like I say, Nashville is just, when I first came here in 78, 79, I lived here for a while with a legendary songwriter named Jerry Chestnut, who wrote 4 in the Morning, Looking at the World Through a Windshield, Good Year for the Roses, and everything else. And what an education, what a
Man.
crazy guy and time. And he took us around and showed us, you know, all the sites in Nashville, and he had an office on Music Row, and it's just it's always a learning experience. You know?
People used to walk up and down with their guitar and and cassettes and be able to just drop them off, and
Yeah.
whether they were ever listened to or not. But you wouldn't do that now. would
But
you?
if we were trying to find somebody, we would just walk the alleys in 16th and 17th. And,
Listen.
you know, when I was one day
remember
looking
that.
for Daryl Dodd, and I walked back there, I signed Daryl to BMG, and there he's standing there talking to Tracy Lawrence like they're just two guys,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm,
It was a magical time
Yeah.
in Nashville when you and I were doing it full time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and getting paid for it. But I remember just driving into this town
Yeah.
from Colorado, going when I hit the city limits.
Yeah.
It was like, this is my town.
There was an
Something
energy on
happened.
Music Road that's not there anymore, but there was a wonderful energy.
You could
down there.
feel it. You'd
Yeah.
take the Demumbrian exit, and
Yeah.
you would enter the bubble,
Yeah.
where language was different.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about cuts and holds, and just
Yeah.
just
And it wasn't a competition, and then either
No,
it was
the
a
pie
community,
was big
and
enough for
everybody was
everybody.
pulling for each other
Yeah.
and playing songs for each other. And I love the stories of what was the publisher that Johnny McRae and all them were in over there that they all pulled for each other, and they all
Yeah.
piled up their songs every week, and whoever had the top 5 got demoed, and then
is that like Maypop or one of
no,
those?
it was the other one, but they would all pitch each other's songs to artists, and
Yeah,
it was
so
just wonderful. It's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just such a wonderful time.
Yeah.
So here's a little fun fact, since we're just keep sharing these little fun facts. Sam's one of my artists, and so
I hear that.
he's an
now.
original artist that I represent, but also he's in my tribute band,
Yeah.
the Analog FM
That
Classic
is a
Rock.
fun. It's a fun
And
band.
so it's so fun. But talk a little bit about you. You had not only was you a songwriter, but you had a couple of record deals too.
I did. It's a kind of fun thing. I was somehow really blessed to. I got a gig at the Courtyard Cafe, and that was it was in Antioch, and I was the Friday night guy, and a guy named Phil Vassar was the Saturday night guy, and then another thing that kind of contributed to the songwriting thing was I had gone on a Sunday night and played some of my songs at the Bluebird, and the owner at that time was named Amy Curlin, and she really liked my songs, so she kind of made a way for me to once a month on a Tuesday night get a half-hour spot to play my songs, and that was kind of crazy in those days.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
have
a big
anything
deal.
cut or anything like that, and so that's where I met Jody Williams. He was there that night, my BMI guy, and just through that, and through me playing at the Courtyard Cafe, and I was tending bar at Ruby Tuesdays. A lady that worked at Ruby Tuesdays with me, her husband had just become A&R over at Warner Brothers, and she kept telling him that you need to go hear Sam, And
Yeah.
for him, it was like, my wife wants me to hear somebody,
Yes.
This
This is so typical Nashville
roll.
because that's what we always
Yeah.
say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's been so many people that are so talented that's waiting tables, and I'm like, you just need to be quiet because if you don't, then somebody's gonna take your spot.
I
And
promise it's the
it's
strangest
insane.
overnight kind of weird thing how I got signed there. He came out, listened, and said, "Man, I'm sorry, I wasn't planning on you being good."
Yeah. Yeah.
He said, "Come meet me in my office." So I went and met him,
Yeah.
that next Wednesday, and he said, "You know what? We got a problem. Tomorrow, we've got a big session for Kenny Rogers is doing an album with Dolly, and the president of Warner Bros. At that time was Jim Ed Norman, and Jim Ed was producing the record, and he said there is a huge snowstorm and Kenny is stuck in Chicago, and they had hired major players.
Oh yeah.
And I guess they were counting their money because they said, look, Jim Ed still wants to have the session. Can you be Kenny tomorrow?
Oh.
And I said, okay. Yeah. You go, yes. Let me think
Yes.
about it. Yes. I can be Kenny.
Sure.
He said, you just be the pilot vocal. So, but here's a cassette. Just learn these songs, So it was two
You
songs.
got the right guy.
And I remember staying up half the night going out to the car because I didn't want to wake up anybody in the house. And one of the songs, I knew it was too high. I knew it was too high for Kenny Rogers,
Yeah.
But I knew I was going to have to slip into falsetto. And I got there, and Jim Ed was there.
Yeah.
And Jim Ed looked at me and he goes, "Hey, this song, it's too high for Kenny. Are you okay if we lower the key?" I was like,
Yes, thank you.
and just through that,
Yeah.
Jim Ed said, "Hey, I like this guy," and through that was kind of the open door that they ended up signing me.
Yeah.
They signed me and a few other people,
Yeah.
and I remember I was there for it seemed like about 2 years, just cutting stuff, going out and touring.
Yeah.
That opening for some of the Warner Brothers acts.
Yeah.
Which was it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. But I remember there was 3 of us, and my A&R guy, I won't tell you his name, he's a great guy. He said, "Hey, Sam, Monday, we're going to go with one of you. we're going to listen to you and Faith."
Oh.
I went to him, I said, oh, wait, can you just listen to Faith? And, you know, 3 months, can you just listen to me? I mean, who's going first? Because if they look at my sexy pictures and they look at Faith's sexy pictures, I just, no,
Who's
they
gonna
love
win?
you, they
It's not
love
a
you.
fair
It's going to be
fight.
great. I went home and I told my wife, it's over.
It's over.
It's over. But, if you're going to lose to somebody, lose to Faith Hill.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
We all knew Faith was going to make it huge,
That's
So-
awesome.
Yeah, she was around singing demos before.
Oh,
that.
yeah.
She actually worked over at Reba with Stacy, with my wife. She was in the fan club,
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Faith, and she was at our wedding. She was nobody at the
She
time.
was so sweet.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Oh yeah,
Do
adorable.
you sing? I see you have a guitar here. Did you do your own? Do you do your own demos, or do you hire that out?
Well, I normally like to have a real singer.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sing and I can hold a tune, but you get these guys like Sam that just can
Yeah.
make a song just soar.
Right.
And there's so many great singers in town.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, but I've been using AI actually. I build models
Really?
and I sing it and tune it, and then I put somebody else's voice on it, and it's
Changes it.
magical.
Wow.
Well, you heard it here first.
Yes.
That's a
I don't
fun
like to
fact.
do it, but I don't have $350 a song to pay a singer. So
Yeah.
Is that what it costs?
Bro, that's
nowadays?
crazy.
The
That's
top-
crazy cool. I didn't.
Yeah,
He's like, let me
the
try
top-
that.
I
the
need
top
to tap into the AI
singers,
world.
top demo singers in town are getting that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're great. They're worth it. But
Yeah.
I'm a poor little songwriter, so I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So
It's it's a rolling of the dice, and what do people look for in this town? One thing I love about country music is such a story. It's still a good
Mm-hmm.
song is a good story. Just crafting it
It's
right.
my favorite songs that I've written or that I've heard Bobby write.
yeah,
and
it's
do
just
the story
it's
songs.
it's a funny animal now though because it's changed so much.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Story songs, it's like other than that one about the guy getting out of the truck and shooting the dude and going to prison for
Right.
a girl he's just
Right.
met.
Right.
I still go. I think it's a fantastic song, but I go, what?
yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
sees a girl in the street, kills a guy, and goes to prison for her.
Yeah.
Girl he's never met. I don't.
Don't identify
don't get
with
that.
it.
Yeah.
But
It's a movie.
yeah. But I mean, one of my favorite quotes is David Foster. He said, "Good is the enemy of great," and this town
So
has have
true.
100 million good songs, and then some great ones.
Yeah.
So I
And-
have
Bro,
a question
you've
for
written
both of
well,
you
some
guys.
of 'em.
So what is the one song that you wish you had written?
Stairway to Heaven. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
I mean, just not from a monetary
Well,
standpoint, but just.
I mean,
just
I couldn't
a
even
great
narrow it
song,
down to
like,
one. It would be
What are some of them?
Brian Wilson, God Only Knows, or something in that era.
Yeah.
Any Paul McCartney songs. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. What about
Jimmy
you, Sam?
Webb, Wichita Lineman. Oh, Lord.
Oh.
That would be my number one,
Oh my
Wichita
gosh.
Lineman.
Yeah.
Wichita
And I
Lineman.
need you more than want you,
Yeah.
and I want you for all time.
Oh.
And the funny thing
yeah.
is, if they'd have let him, he was going to change those lines. And he admits it. That they cut it before he could say
Just
it's
say
not
that
finished.
again. I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time.
Yeah. It's one of the greatest
And-
lines.
Man.
The
But
song, the song Remembers When, you press wood.
Yeah, that's a great song.
I wish I would have written that.
But there's somebody was asking me a couple of weeks ago one of my favorite lines in a song, and I said it's "What I've Got They Used to Call the Blues," and he said I've never heard that. And I said
What
it's
I've got
Carpenters,
they
it's
used to
Paul
call the
Williams,
Yes.
and that's just a all-time line. Actually, some famous Mentor Williams or somebody met him in a hall and went back down the hall, came back down and said, "You mean you're that guy that wrote that What I've Got They Used to Call the Blues?" And he said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Great line, man," and walked back off. You know.
Wow.
So-
Wow. Number one for me would be, I guess, Wichita Lineman was way up there. I have a daughter named Aubrey,
Oh,
and
Bread.
Bread had, I thought, the perfect lyric to go with the most beautiful melody I'd ever heard. I still almost can't hear that song.
Yeah.
So I knew my daughter had to have that name.
But see, I have this
Wow.
theory that David Gates got all his chords from Henry Mancini and Moon River.
Yes.
Because if you listen to Moon River, every
Yes.
chord, every bread chord is in there.
Oh.
Listen to this song.
It is.
Every chord is in there.
Dude, I
I mean-
re-recorded Moon River about 2
But
years
that's
ago.
the whole
just
thing.
from,
We
you
all
know,
stand on the shoulders of the people before us, and
We do.
You know, unfortunately these younger kids are learning, beat machines and AI and all this stuff, and they're not going back and listening to.
Yeah.
By the time I get to Phoenix, or just great melodies and stuff.
Yesterday. Come on.
However, I think we'll cycle back around at some point. You know?
Yeah.
It always does.
I'd like to be alive when that happens.
Yeah.
What would you? Can you play us a song?
Well, sure. Sure.
He's
Sam?
not going to turn down playing. Are you kidding?
Sam can't play.
So we've
Water.
never done this on the show, so I don't know what what we're
Point
gonna,
your mic.
it's going to
Yeah.
sound like, or
I know
but you gotta
that I
sing.
need water pretty bad.
We can get you some water.
Yeah.
So this will be a first for
Now
before I
Mark's
get it
going to have to
together.
edit now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I've got one that Bobby helped me do a demo on a few years ago.
Yeah, there you go. It's,
Oh man, this guitar sounds good.
It sounds awesome.
do a plug for the guitar. What is it?
This is a handcrafted Gallagher.
Uh-huh.
They're built by a family named Gallagher.
Yeah.
They were always made in Wartrace, Tennessee, and now they've moved to Murfreesboro. This one was well, it's a long story, but I always say that God gave me this guitar.
Wow.
A dear friend named Jay Hoppus gave me this guitar.
Oh,
He did.
wow.
Well, he gave me another one, and then it ended up to be this one then,
Wow.
So it's very special.
Sounds great.
Yeah, sure. It's just a story song.
Yeah, my favorites.
I'm kind of, I was birthed from an era in the 90s, really, when the double entendre was so huge.
Yes.
You don't hear it
Oh, yeah.
anymore,
No.
but this is called Single Handed, right?
Okay. Did you write this one?
I did.
Yeah. Great.
I actually wrote this with a guy named Kim Tribble, who's gone on to be with
Okay.
God.
Wonderful writer.
Yeah, wonderful writer. Yeah. So here we go. Although it broke her heart the day he left, she stood strong till he was gone, and then she wept. Though it might not be proper, people still talked about her. It's the Bible Belt. She never once complained about raising that little boy all by herself. Although he's everything to her, you see, she still longs for the company of someone else. Single-handed, but she's still standing. After all that she's been through, there's nothing she can't do. No surrender. She's tough and tender. She'll build her life where love has ended. Single-handed.
Wow.
Let me keep going.
Yes.
She got a call from mom and dad saying, please come home, don't be alone. She said, I can't. You raised me independent, so please don't be offended by my hard head. So it's pony rides and t-ball games. She knows she can't do everything, but she's doing the best she can. Favorite line. And on her left hand there's a pale white line she can't forget and she can't hide, that tells every man she's single-handed, but she's still standing. After all that she's been through, there's nothing she can't do. No surrender. She's tough and tender. She's gonna build a life where love has ended. Single-handed. Yeah. No surrender. She's tough and tender. She'll build her life where love has single-handed,
Wow.
single-handed. You know what? There was a
Wow.
there was three of us on that song. Jimbo Henson
Was he?
was another one.
Wow.
Jimbo,
Wow.
me and yeah.
That's big. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
They're both gone.
Yeah, they are.
so beautiful.
They're both gone.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate y'all letting me play that. I haven't played that song in a long time.
What's
I
your other
love it.
song that I always love? The draws them.
He still draws them together.
Oh, man. If y'all haven't heard that, you got to hear that one. That's it's another great story song. Yeah, yeah.
It is, yeah. I remember I sat down to write with a guy named Jerry Salley, and we ended up writing that song. And it's just kind of funny because first time you write with somebody, and I'd love for y'all to hear that song. It's probably I don't know that I can write better than that. I don't.
Do one more.
Okay, you
Do
go
it.
ahead.
Do it, Sammy.
Sure. I like Drop D a lot, don't I?
Yeah. Why not? It works for you.
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Boy, it's hard to sing that one I just sang.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, what's the melody on this one? I got it. Hold on. He still draws them together, right? Well, every Friday morning, in Mrs. Johnson's class, he's so excited he can barely speak. He sharpens every pencil and gets his paint and water glass and sits down to make a picture. It looks just like the one he made last week. He still draws them together. They're both in the picture the way it used to be. But Mom and Dad have given up. He's still young enough to keep believing in forever. He still draws them together.
Wow. Keep going.
3 o'clock they both show up to get him after school, confused about whose turn it is today. They feel a bit uneasy, they don't know what to do, 'cause they know what he's thinking when he sees them standing side by side this way. Still draws them together. They're both in the picture the way it used to be. But Mom and Dad have given up. He's still young enough to keep believing in forever. He still draws them together. Hurries down the hallway with his papers in his hands, and he's waving his new picture as he runs. It's a 14 by 11 house with a woman and a man, and they're playing in the front yard with their son. Face to face they wonder what they've done. Yeah, he still draws them together. They're both in the picture the way it used to be. But Mom and Dad had given up. He's still young enough to keep believing in forever. He still draws them together. Just look how he still draws together.
Love it. Yay, and the crowd
Thank you,
goes
Nashville. Good
crazy.
night.
Well,
That's right.
the funny thing about that, that's so much of Jerry Sally in the way he put
Sam,
things
that's
together.
so much of you. I hear it.
Dude, thank you. You know, but it's funny when you sit down and write with somebody you've never written with before.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, play me something you wrote." So I played him some. I played my
Yeah.
Diamond Rio thing because I really want to impress this guy. I met him at the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival.
Okay.
I was just, gotten to do some songs,
Yeah.
and so I said, "Well, play me something you wrote." And he's, I can do all strength, things through Christ who gives me strength.
Yeah.
He wrote His Strength is Perfect with Stephen Curtis. I'm like, oh my God!
So evidently he wanted to drop a mic on you too.
Oh my word! I'm like, I can't hang with this guy. That song, I think I got saved to that song.
Every time I heard it, right?
Yeah.
What would you want to be known by? What's the one song that, when it's all said and done, what do you want played?
I don't know.
I do.
What?
Smoke on the water. No, just kidding. I don't know. I mean, the one that gets everybody is Broken Road, of course. Bless the Broken Road.
Yeah.
And I love that, and it's been a wonderful song and
Yeah.
moved a lot of people, and that was the whole thing that I'd hoped for my whole life was
Yeah.
to have a song that everybody knew and
It's
it
timeless,
meant
man.
something to them, and
Yeah.
You
everybody.
wrote a song that'll be there for 100
Yeah.
years.
Well, everybody that comes up for years, the song's 20-something years old now. They're like, oh, that's my song. Y'all wrote that for me. Or they played that at my niece's funeral, or
Can't tell you how many
a
weddings
wedding, or
I've played.
this or that. And so that's wonderful. But I'm still at this place where I'm still striving for a
Yeah.
God only knows, or a yesterday, or a,
I,
Broken Road's pretty close.
to
but
me,
it's
I
still
think
my-
Broken
Huge.
Road is Yesterday. I
It's
think it's one of the
huge.
greatest songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is to tell you something about Bobby. Okay, so I major loss in my life a long time ago. My first marriage failed, and I just found myself at Walmart at 3 a.m. holding an oven mitt. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
So Bobby and Stacy kind of just adopted me, and I remember this will tell you about Bobby. So they're feeding me. Stacy's phenomenal cook. She gave me all these recipes for my kids because I got 5 kids
Yeah.
from that marriage, and I look up. I'm in the kitchen, and she cooked. There's a lot of cooking going on there, and I look up, and there's like cumin and spice and matches on a shelf.
Uh-huh.
I looked up and I said, "Bro, is that your Grammy?" He's like, "Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
there it is.
It's got like oil from cooking all over it, And I thought if I ever won a Grammy, it'd have its own room
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
humidor with track lighting on
Yes.
it. It's just
For
like,
sure.
So
great.
people sing.
Awesome.
People sing. Yesterday, like they sing. I just want you to tell you, Bobby. People sing Yesterday like they sing those old Cole Porter songs, and Yesterday, and they mean it. And that song is timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you wrote
well,
it, man.
it's done. It's done well. Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Marcus and Jeff
Oh,
Humman.
please.
Jeff Hanna from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. They actually recorded it first, I think.
Really?
Well, Marcus, the main writer and guy on it, had a deal on Sony. He recorded it, and then Jeff Hanna is in the Dirt Band. They recorded it on their acoustic album, and then it went through a number of different people. Melody Crittenden did
Yeah,
a
Selah
version, and
recorded.
who's
So
the
good.
Jeff Moore, the Christian dude.
Jeff Moore in the distance.
And I don't know how many artists told me, man, I wanted to cut that song, or I'm going to cut that song. Colin Ray had it on hold. Faith Hill had it on hold. Reba told me several times she was going to cut it.
It had to be flats. It
Yeah,
had to be.
and that was
Yeah.
just the
Perfect
the
artist
the
voice.
cut. Somehow they found the song from Marcus, I think, and I think they were looking for a piano player for the record or something, and they heard the song, or that might have been Melody where she found it, but yeah, it just took off, and
Yeah,
they-
the right artist, and then the right lyric, and the
Well,
right producer, and
yeah.
just
Well, when they
all
cut it, the song was technically 11 years old.
Wow.
So that was 2004. So add 20 years onto that. So.
I've always loved that because I thought I've got songs that are ancient, You know, that for just
Still can
for
happen.
just this Lazarus thing
Yeah.
to happen with
Yes.
a song. It's so
Yeah,
But
well,
that's a
you,
great
you
thing
have
about
a
a lyric.
great catalog, dude, that needs to come back around.
man. thank
That's
you,
a great
buddy.
thing about a lyric is that it's, most of the time it's not time stamped. What would be time stamped would be something of the instrumentation, right? It
Right,
would be, some
The
of
keyboard sound. If it's
yeah.
a DX7,
Yes.
it's
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
80s.
had publishers in the 90s telling me that I shouldn't be writing songs about records because they were gone out. The kids didn't know what records are. I'm not kidding.
True.
That's
They
crazy.
told me I didn't need to write songs that had anything with faith in them, and
They don't
angels
know
and things.
nothing.
Yeah.
I turn around and here comes Diamond Rio and Brooks and Dunn and everybody singing songs about angels,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alabama, and so you hear those kind of things.
Yeah.
Oh, Martina.
You know,
yeah.
you get told, well, don't write this kind or don't write that kind, and then the next thing you know, it's all over the place.
I loved your Martina song, man. I love that one.
What'd you write
Oh,
for
yeah.
Martina?
It's a song called "Swinging Doors," not the Merle Haggard one. It was,
I got
Yeah.
swinging.
you must think my heart has swinging doors,
Yeah, it's a great song.
and it did well. It did in the 30s, but everybody was still so into Wild Angels. That's the song. That 3 singles came out after that, and all fell
Yeah.
off. Just I don't blame them. I mean, Wild Angels is such a great song. Nobody was going to let go of that one. So
I hope that we have given you guys some encouragement. If you're a writer, just keep writing. And if you're a singer, just keep singing. And just keep doing what you love and get better at it. Study the songs that you love and what makes them special to you and what makes you still remember them when you forget everything else. Find a song, make that your heart cry today, and just be blessed by some good music, all right? We're so glad you joined us today. Join us again next week on Get It Together, y'all, because we're here to help. Bye-bye.